It keeps popping up, but anyway, it's okay. Um, anyway, alcohol was the major factor in the family as well. And my father became an alcoholic. So, of course, we stepped on eggshells around the alcoholism, stepped on eggshells around the abuse. And as is typical, the family unit does stay together. You pretend that everything is okay. Um, my needs were never dealt with, were never addressed. Needs, it was my mother's needs that were addressed. It was my father's needs that were addressed, not mine or my brothers and sister. And not that they didn't try to care for us or didn't care, they did in their own way. But as we well know, they had their own issues, and that's why they did what they did, right? Um, anyway, one of the things that I did is to keep myself safe is I put that emotion or that invisible wall around myself and between myself and others. And so I pushed people away, I kept them away, and it worked really well for most of my life. But as I said in my bio, it, you know, at some point I realized how lonely it also kept me. And but you know, the upside is I became responsible, I became independent, I became strong, all those things that kind of uh, helped me get through life. And by keeping me safe, that kept me out of a lot of things too, is what a lot of people who are traumatized, and especially sexually traumatized, you know, we often get into addictions of all sorts to numb our pain, and into bad relationships. And not that I didn't have my flirt with those, but not to any deep extent. I didn't get into relationships where, you know, I ended up in abusive relationships. I kept my distance, and it served me well. But as I said to you earlier, Callie, you know, I've been married for 49 years. And
Congratulations, by the way. Hopefully one day I'll find my true love as well.
yes. But as we well know, though, you have to work at it. I mean, I brought my baggage to the marriage, and it created, there was still distance because I, even with getting married and close, there was still some distance because I still kept my husband at arm's length for a long time. Um, Things came to a point that I finally had to tell my husband. I didn't initially. We had been married 16 years before I told him. And it was like, you know, he was hit with a baseball bat. He didn't know what to do. But for me, it opened up the door to start coming out of denial that I wasn't okay. You know, I
Yeah.
was trying to bury it and pretend that I wasn't okay, or that I was okay. I wasn't going to let it affect me. But of course, it affected everything,
Hmm.
because one of the things that, you know, I'm coming to understand more and more in terms of how trauma affects the beliefs about ourselves, you know, and especially in those early years, when we're not listened to, when we're not seen, when we're not heard. And of course, I grew up in that generation. Kids are to be seen and not heard, you know, kind of thing. And so, anyway, when those kinds of things happen, the beliefs that we internalize is that we're not lovable, that we're not, that we can't voice ourselves, that we're not worthy, all those kinds of things, because our deeper needs are not being met. Um, so, but anyway, kept it a secret, and as I have learned, you know, those secrets can kill us, and
Hmm.
they can make us very sick. And anyway, so I opened up the door. The secret was out of the box, and that led me to start going in deeper to personal development. I was kind of dabbling with it before, but kind of um, the easy stuff in terms of it. It didn't give my husband a clue as to, you know, why I was really doing it, other than, you know, maybe looking at you know, my alcoholic family that I came from. But in reality, it was, I was still trying to find answers for the sexual abuse.
Hmm.
And so, and with that too, I went to university and got my degree in social work, which is not unusual for trauma victims. You know, we get into the help professions to help other people, and also, I think, find answers. For me, it was more about finding answers. And I didn't really find the answers then, but I have much more so these last 6 years. But anyway, so I, get into therapy, go to personal development, go to different retreats and whatnot. And, and this was back in the 80s. And one of the big differences between then versus now, that we have, like, there's a lot more resources now, but there's also a lot more connection that follows up afterwards through social media. We can stay connected with each other after we leave, whatever retreat we've been at, whatever. Whereas back in the 80s, I tried to keep contact, but, it just doesn't happen. So you don't have the same ongoing support that we can give now, for
Yes,
example.
definitely.
And yeah, but it opened up some insight, I guess, for me in terms of understanding how much further I could go in terms of meeting my needs. And because I think, obviously, I married my husband, even though I was independent and I was going to work, all this kind of stuff, I kind of lost that, and in many ways became a kept woman. And, he was going to meet all my needs. But of course, when we find that that doesn't happen, at some point we realize that it all comes from within. And so therapy and all that made me realize that, okay, I need to meet my needs. I need to learn to like myself and do what I did. And so, as I mentioned there, I created then and continue to create a good life. I I would go to the gym. I taught swimming for 35 years. I became a personal trainer at 48.
Wow.
And I went on cycle tours by myself. I would join other groups, but I would go on my own. I was never afraid to venture out on my own to meet other people in that sense. Not saying I don't have my fears, but those kinds of things weren't there. So, I did all that. And so life was generally good, but I would get little reminders along the way. I still had more work to do. And I was hit with a big reminder at about the age of 65 that I had a lot more work to do in terms of communication and connecting. And I was still pushing people away, and I needed to address that. I ended up in the ER with what I thought was a heart attack, and it wasn't. But while I was in the hospital, I went into AFib, and I was very healthy and fit, as I still am. And so there was no explanation as to why. But for me, it was a wake up call that I had more work to do. And so that's kind of when I met some other women. I went to a retreat, and then met more women and expanded from there. And so, as I've often said, I'm at an age where usually as we get older into our senior years, our circle of friends and family decreases. Mine's been the opposite. Mine has increased. I have expanded my circle of friends, whereas before, I only had one or two. I was the loner, so that was one of the beliefs that I grew up with, that I'm alone. And, I didn't realize until many, many years later that I wasn't alone in this. I found, especially some of those initial workshops and retreats that I went to, often I would be paired with a man, and he had also been sexually abused. It's like, okay, there's no coincidences here, and yeah, you just keep expanding and growing from there as you meet more people, and just realize how broken, or how not broken, how wounded most of us have all been.
Did you get the opportunity to confront your father or confront your family at a later age in life, or?
I probably had the opportunity, yes, but I did not. In those younger years, I didn't have the courage at that point. I didn't have the wherewithal. There was a part of me that kind of thought maybe I didn't have to, but it probably comes down more to I didn't really have the courage at that point. But one of the pivotal things that happened is my mother died of cancer in 99, November of 99. And she had been sick for several months prior to that. And I made a very conscious decision at that point that it was time for my father to look after her. Whereas all the years prior to that, I was meeting her emotional needs. I was still codependent with her.
Mhm.
And anyway, so as a result, I didn't see her near as much as I may have otherwise. And sometimes, I have those pangs of guilt about that. But anyway, when I got the phone call from my father that my mother had died, I was homesick in bed. But what happened is it was an instant relief within my whole body that I no longer had to pretend. I no longer had to see my father. I no longer had to have him a part of my life. And he lived for about another 18 years after that.
Wow.
And I had no contact with him. And
And it's a very hard thing to have to go through at such a young age and live with that throughout your whole life. And,
mhm,
being able to speak about it now, it's, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to talk about
mhm,
what you've been through. You come to a point in your life where you feel like it's time to speak up. And,
mhm,
with
yeah,
regardless of the outcome,
right.
regardless of what your family thinks, regardless of your friends, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter anymore, because you, in your core soul, have to release it in order to move forward, in order to grow.
right. And that's the key thing. And we don't have to release it publicly, but we have to release it.
Yeah.
And part of that is feeling the feelings, whereas that was part of my process when I started 6 years ago, was to kind of really
Mhm.
get into that, because I was so shut down. I mean, that's why I was pushing people away. I was still so shut down for so long. And so to kind of get in touch with that and learn to be able to, as you say, talk about it and release it and share it, and hold space for other women that are doing the same thing too, because that is naturally what starts to happen. And yeah, without really feeling and understanding those mixed emotions too, in terms of, you're hurt, you're angry, but yet at the same time, I love my father because of my parents. In spite of what happened, it was my father who encouraged me to be all that I could be.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, it
That's
was.
interesting.
Yes, but again, one of the things that I've realized in my situation, it's not in every situation, but in my situation, you know, the people that hurt us don't necessarily intend to hurt us, but intention doesn't matter. Just because I don't intend to hurt you doesn't mean something that I say doesn't hurt you. It might, right?
And the actions as well,
Yes,
for
exactly.
sure.
But that doesn't mean that, they don't come from a space of love. It's
Mhm.
just twisted.
Yeah, it's a
you
different
know
kind of love, that's for sure.
yeah, right. It's just, yeah, the thing that I often wondered, and I will never know, but I have a pretty good hunch that, I suspect at some point, my father was sexually molested as well.
Mhm.
I know he left home at a very young age, never finished school, and he was a bright man, but um yeah, everybody loved him, very uncommon. It's just, our everyday common people. And that's the other thing in terms of the statistics. The majority of those of us that sexually abuse us and molest us, whatever, are people we know.
Yep.
And it's your father, your grandfather, which is far too common as well, brother, uncle,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just really
And it
common.
doesn't
And
necessarily even have to be the opposite sex.
no,
You
no,
know what I
that's
mean?
right.
Like, I've heard instances where mothers have done things to children as well, and vice versa. And,
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yeah.
it
And
just,
in that sense, that's what I wonder, and I suspect that somewhere along his mother abused him. Yeah.
yeah. And that, I was in a relationship previously, and, I didn't know at the time, but, the gentleman that I was with, it was actually abused.
Hmm.
And, there's certain things that you can pick up on, and there's certain things that, unless they speak up and tell you, you really
Yeah.
wouldn't know,
Right.
unless they have the heart to, share, and they may
Mhm.
not be at a place where they're ready to share. But you could be
Right.
in this relationship with this person, just like you were with your husband for 16 years and he had no idea,
Mhm.
and then,
Right.
something may happen, and then, you know, that person decides to open up to you. And, it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. It takes a lot of courage to be able to speak.
Right.
It
And
really
a
does.
lot of it is, I'm realizing is it takes some healing. It takes having an understanding, a language, and that's the other thing in terms of why children, it's so difficult for them, and especially at a very young age, if it happens to them, before the age of 1 or 2, they have no language, no understanding, and it's even more confusing. But to even as an adult to explain to someone else, like I wasn't able to explain to my husband what I needed because a part of me had no clue other than, just being safe. But like, what does that mean?
That even if you did explain it, he wouldn't know how
No,
to give you what you need, because he hasn't experienced what you've experienced as well. He could be there
that's
for
right.
emotional support, but he would never truly understand what you've been through.
No, no,
Right.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, because he comes from a totally different world and, yeah, it's just totally different. And
So
it's
let's
so,
talk about how you got to do the photos and the body painting with Mark. Because, girl, I don't even have the courage to do this. My girlfriend posted in the group, they want to
yeah.
do a photo shoot and they wanted a body painter, and I was like, oh, I would never do that. That's the last thing I'm gonna do. But you know what? After the conversation with you, and
Yeah,
I'm going to share a little bit about what I
sure.
have been through as well. So, maybe it
Yeah,
will inspire other
yes,
people as well. But I
great.
actually signed up to do the photo shoot after our conversation.
Did you? Good for
I
you.
did.
That's awesome.
They're working on making time to be able to do
Uh-huh.
and to do 2 models rather than one. But I think,
Oh, cool.
I've always wanted to work with Mark, and I know he's
Yeah,
in Calgary. We're going to get him to Vancouver at some point, and I'll
yeah,
get a bunch of girls together and we'll do something really awesome.
yeah.
But, ever since the day that I met Mark and I came to his studio, I've
Hmm.
always felt this, like, this is a way for me to love myself again. And I
Yes,
want you to
yeah,
share, because it takes a lot of courage. Like, sometimes I don't even want to look at myself naked in the mirror. I know, like,
yeah,
I know that,
yeah.
I'm a pretty good looking girl, but, the internal things that, you keep hearing the machinery over and over and telling you
Yeah.
you're not good enough, telling you not worthy.
Mhm.
And, the way that
Yep.
society is nowadays, like, everybody's using filters and all these things like that.
Yeah.
When you look at when you see them in real life, they don't even look like that.
Right.
And, we hide behind our screens, we hide behind our image that we portray on social media. But
Mhm. Yeah.
that's a very bold thing to do at your age, girl. All about this. How did this happen?
Uh,
Like,
well, I've one that has always been just a little bit different in terms of like, I was a gym rat, in the 80s, and very few women were doing that. So there's been that little bit of rebellious side of me, but still kind of within conservative realms,
that's why
whatever.
we get along so good.
But one of the gals that I know online, I mean, I know her personally. She did a photo shoot with Mark, the a year and a half ago now. He has a program. I'm sure you've seen it. Is Her Body Speaks?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what caught
and
my eye.
anyway, yeah, she had posted her picture, and the instant I saw that, I thought I have to do that. And so that was in the springtime, and I was still down south at the time. So as soon as I got home, I connected with Mark, and he had one coming up. And so I think I did it. Yeah, I did it in July, just before my birthday. So it was just before I turned 70. And so that kind of opened up the door. And then when I saw what else he did in terms of, looking online and the pictures at his place and whatnot, it's like I knew I had to do more. And so I set up the appointment, and we did it in September. And so we did it in his studio there that you got, and with the different props. And of course, he's very good in the sense of, the whole purpose behind his wife doing the makeup, and him, getting everything ready, and conversation is to help relax you and calm you
Mhm.
down and whatever. And of course, obviously to get to know you a little bit better as well. And yeah, it was like I just decided I want to be bold, and having done the Her Body Speaks helped, because even with doing that, um, that gave me a little bit more ownership about myself and my body, because definitely I've struggled with my body image as well. I mean, I think to me, it's a given. I think any of us that have been sexually abused, that, we wonder, are we really lovable, or are we just being used for an object or whatever? And for me, it was, am I just being used?
Mhm.
And I never really have thought of myself as beautiful, maybe attractive, but not beautiful. But whatever. And it was like, no, there was just something deeper inside I knew I needed to do. And it's hard to explain, but definitely, to me, I've reclaimed my my body. I've reclaimed that inner strength, at a deeper level, both personally and sexually, seeing myself through the eyes of someone else. I mean, of course, the pictures, a photo shoot, even without filters, they still, bring out the best in you, right?
Mhm.
And you pick he picks the best and you pick the best and whatever. But still to see that in terms of capturing your inner essence is what I saw. And yeah, it just made a huge difference in.
It's like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
best way that I can describe it. It's not only are you going through, like, and anybody that has never done a nude photo or done any
yeah,
type of body painting,
yeah.
like, it's quite uncomfortable to sit there for so long with people looking at you and staring at you and painting all over you. So,
Only to start with, only
yeah, of course,
initially.
at the beginning, I'm sure it's quite uncomfortable, but they walk you through it and they make you feel comfortable, and all the things that you were battling in your mind at that time while you had first started. How did you feel at that moment before? Like, I know you felt really amazing once you had completed it and
Hmm. Yeah,
you are this new, you're transformed, but
yeah.
like, what were you battling in your head at that moment?
Uh, and that exactly is part of the process as well. It's not
Yeah,
just the after, it
exactly.
is while you're there. And so it's part of it is trying to um, calm down those voices in your head and embrace the beauty of who you really are. And in fact, I just remembered, and I remember sharing this with Mark. One of the retreats I was at, it was actually in Costa Rica, and this was a couple of years ago. And one of the activities we did, your transformational activities that you do at retreats, is we were at a waterfall, and I think was there 8 or 10 of us women, lost track. Anyway, after we had done our stuff around at the waterfall, we did a ceremony just removed from it where we were all nude.
Hmm.
And it was a very sacred ceremony in terms of honoring each other. And like we would put our hands somewhere on all of us on one person, and we all took turns in doing that. And that in itself, for me, is, I guess, probably one of those first steps to having that courage, in terms of from at that point, and then taking it beyond that, seeing the natural beauty that each of us have in our own unique way, our own unique gift.
That's beautiful.
And just, like how we, as you said, we all beat ourselves up, we're not perfect enough, all these kinds of things, and yet we're also perfectly or imperfectly perfect, whatever, however you want to say it. We're supposed to be different, we're not supposed to be perfect. And just learning to love that. So those kinds of things going through my head about just relax and be, and love what is.
Yes, I love
Hmm.
that. Like, there's so much body shaming and
Hmm.
the way that society is these days, most of the people on Instagram and social media have had like thousands of dollars worth of plastic surgery and work done. I'm not denying that it's a bad thing because I have it as well.
Hmm.
Have had some done, but there was a reason behind why I did it.
Hmm.
And the thing about it is it doesn't really matter, but you have to be comfortable in your own skin and not let society
Yes.
tell you how to be, and
Yeah.
and what they think is beauty
Yeah.
from.
And that in itself is a real journey whether you've been sexually traumatized or not. As women, we all seem to struggle with that.
Mhm.
And getting to that point of, to me, finally fully realizing that everything in life comes from within.
Mhm.
Absolutely nothing external is what gives us value.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Wow, this has just been an incredible conversation. Not only has it given me more power, and I'm gonna start crying. I really appreciate you, taking the time to do this. And I
Oh,
felt so
thank
connected
you.
with you. And you guys, we both have warrior tattooed on us. And
We do.
oh, it's really, really cool because I just learned this today, right before our call. And maybe I can share a little bit of kind of about my experience and what I had gone through, so people can understand why we relate. And
Right.
I just want to let you know that you're not alone. When they came out with that, the movement Me Too,
Hmm.
that was one of the most profound things that I had ever seen.
Yeah.
I was like, at that time, I didn't even speak up, but
No.
I should have. At that moment, I should have shared my story.
Yeah.
And it takes
There's a
a lot of
time and a reason
courage.
for it all.
Yeah, it takes a
Hmm.
lot of courage,
Does.
because
Yep.
I've, like, at a young age, I didn't have a father. My father left when we were really young, and my grandpa passed away, and I never got to say goodbye. So I've always had that abandonment feeling that, nobody's gonna love me. I'm never enough. And like, I've always grown up pushing men away, and I didn't realize until I had gone through Landmark education, but
Hmm.
I'll speak a little bit about why I went to Landmark. So in 2013, actually, let's take it back. 2012, I was working at an employer. I'm not going to say the name. I was there for about 7 years, and he verbally abused me, um, like, constantly, always putting me down, to the point where he almost punched me in my face. I had cervical cancer. He threatened to fire me if I didn't show up to work the next day after my
God.
surgery. So
Oh,
one day, enough was enough. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to put up with this bullshit. I am done. I walked out of that job, and I never looked back. I
right.
didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage, but at that time, I felt such a sense of freedom. I
Hmm.
felt like, okay, I've always been like a pretty good go-getter. I'm a pretty motivated person, but at that time, that's the first time I let a man take my power away. And I felt like I wasn't enough. I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. I was like quite young at that time still. I didn't really know. And then I opened up my own clothing store here in Vancouver, in Surrey, and I was so proud. So proud. I'm like, you know what? I don't need to work for somebody else. Since then, I've never had a job. I haven't worked for anybody else. But in that time, I had actually taken my boss to court
Oh,
because of all the things that had happened, and I actually got a settlement.
yeah.
And it was well deserved, because he was an
Hmm.
asshole. And the thing about it is at that time, I had hired a single mom. She had 5 children. I hired her as my assistant at my clothing store, and she was covering me at work when I went to court. Well, little did I know that she was planning a home invasion and setting me up, because she knew I was coming into a settlement.
Oh my God.
I didn't even find out that it was set up until after the fact, that
Hmm.
like, I was already had gone and moved to Toronto. But um, I it I look back now, and you really realize that you really have to pay attention to who you are, who you hang out with, and who are around you,
Right.
because
Yeah.
not everybody has your best interest, not everybody has your back, and the people that you love the most are usually the ones that hurt you.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
fast forward, I ended up befriending one of her family members, which turned out that they were professional con artists and scammers. And things had happened. They ended up figuring out where I lived, got into my condo somehow. I guess somebody let them in. um, had them sexually abuse me, tie me up
Oh, I'm so
for
sorry.
2 or 3 days, feed me
Oh,
drugs,
golly.
and at the time, I felt like I was alone. My mother was in Alberta at the time taking care of my grandmother. And, you know, my cell phone was stolen. My vehicle was stolen. I went to the police. They didn't believe me. We went to the hospital so I could get rape tests and a whole bunch of things done. And, you know, the police kind of laughed at me. Both in Abbotsford, where my vehicle was recovered, and Surrey, they didn't really believe me. They didn't really want to help me. And my mom couldn't get a hold of me. And she drove 7 hours because my cell phone was stolen. She's like, something's wrong. Like, I know something's wrong. She got from Alberta to BC in like 7 or 8 hours and showed up at my door. And, you know, at that time, like, I felt like my life had ended. I felt like my power was gone, and I didn't know how I was going to get it back, you know? So my friend at the time was driving to Toronto, and I said, listen, I can't sleep in my condo. I don't feel safe. They have keys to my life. Like, they know where I live, and please don't leave me alone. Let me drive you. Let me drive you to Toronto.
Yeah.
And you know, the interesting thing about it was, I've been searching for my brothers and sisters since I was about 16. Like, my dad always kind of kept us separate. And I never really got a chance to meet them until the week that I decided to, first of all, let go of my ego, that I owned my condo. You know, I was getting my life together. I was proud. I was, you know, putting on this big front that everything was okay, and that I was tough. And, you know, a lot of people didn't even know why I left Vancouver. So I drove him across the country, dropped him off, drove back across the country from Vancouver to Toronto, sold everything in my condo that I owned, even gave away all my animals, and animals are my life. I like dropped the keys off to the condo that I owned. I bought it at 24 years old. I was so proud. My ego was so freaking huge that I wouldn't let go of my condo. I was hanging on to it because I felt like I had finally accomplished something in my life, something that, you know, I did on my own, something that I could be proud of. When I really realized that holding on to all that crap was what was killing me inside.
Right.
That week that I decided to drive him to Toronto and let go of my condo, I met my brother for the first time. And he lived in Abbotsford.
Oh,
so for my whole life, my brother has been less than 30 minutes from me.
Yeah.
And until I let go of my ego and all of the things that was holding on, I finally met him. And driving across the country, I got to meet my sisters, my aunts, my cousins, and you know, I have this whole sense of self again. I finally realized who I was, and I got to
realize much more important than everything outside of you.
Yeah, and you know, the funny part about it is I've always had this freaking tenacity inside of me, this burning desire to like conquer the world and bring everybody with me. And I didn't really realize, like, I didn't even honestly know that my dad was Scottish. I didn't, I never knew him well enough to know what my family heritage was, because it was never part of that life. And, you know, driving and staying with my aunt, my father passed away when I was, I think in around 2009, and I wasn't invited to the funeral. People were wondering where I was, but his wife didn't invite me, which is fine. But the thing about it is when I was at my aunt's house, I got to realize my family history. And the thing about it is which is really cool. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Rob Roy with Liam Neeson.
No, I've heard of it.
He's like the Braveheart of Scotland.
Yeah.
So that whole movie is based about my family history.
Oh, you're kidding.
So
my background is Scottish too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So we're connected. We're actually connected. So, you know, when I got to Toronto, you know, my whole life changed. I did a lot of internal work, a lot of therapy, you know, and I'm grateful because, you know, I resorted to drugs here in Vancouver. And I think that if I didn't leave and make that life decision to let everything go and be at peace, that I would still be here. I probably wouldn't even be alive today. Actually. And
it's
it's
amazing the some of the horrendous things that happen to us, how they can be the most perfect course correction in our life.
Yeah, you know what? I look at it now and I'm like, okay, I felt like my life was over. But the thing about it, the biggest thing about it is, you know, my partner, Anil, he was there by my side for the whole time. And, he always believed in me. And he introduced me to a program, which is called Landmark Forum. I don't know if you've heard of
No,
it.
I haven't. Yeah.
Okay, well, I could definitely got to connect you with Landmark. It's
Well,
an amazing.
my initial one was the pursuit of excellence.
Awesome. Yeah. And, the thing about it is when I first did the program, I was a victim. Like I literally, everything that I spoke up on that stage was a victim. Like I even called out the coaches a couple times. I was like, you know what I mean? Because I was like, my wall was up, my guard was up. And,
Sure.
it wasn't until all of those feelings and emotions of that victim mentality and that I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy enough. And, until I had gone through that program, I didn't think that I would ever become this person again that I was before I allowed that to happen. And, it took me 8 years to even step foot in Vancouver again.
I understand. It's a long process. Nothing is a direct line.
No. And, it took like even just driving up when I hit about Abbotsford, every emotion that I had felt when I was being abused had come over me. And it was just like, I felt like turning around.
Oh yeah.
I honestly felt like turning around. I was like, I'm not ready for this. I can't face this. I've gone through a lot of things. I've gone through so much mentorship and, it got to the point where, our business was thriving. I was speaking on stages in Toronto. And as soon as I got into BC, like in Abbotsford, I was like right back filled up again with all of those emotions and all of that crap in my head saying, oh, you haven't changed. You're not worthy of this. You're not worthy of becoming something great. So I went back to Landmark. I actually did it again.
Good.
I'm like, okay,
good.
I'm not ready. I'm ready. Obviously there's emotions that have come up and I'm
still need to be dealt with.
Trauma. I'm still dealing with the trauma.
Yeah.
So the first week I was here, I went to the store to go grab a drink. And the abuser was standing in line in front of me. I remembered that voice and the tattoo on the arm like it's clear as day. Clear as day. But the second time I went through Landmark, I actually was able to control my emotions.
Good.
He was a crackhead. He looked like he was already dead inside. He looked at me straight in the face, had no clue who I was. And I said, I cannot believe I let somebody take my power away after 8 years. And now I feel nothing. I feel completely healed. I feel like I can do anything. One thing that they teach you in Landmark is to be, be unstoppable.
Yeah.
And that, you can create the life that you want to create.
Right. Yeah.
And, at that moment, I literally let every single emotion that I had of what I had gone through go. It was so messed up. Like 8 years, I'm crying. Me and my man couldn't even sleep in the same room. That's how bad it was. He could not touch me. There was no emotion. We did not hold hands. We did not hug. We did not kiss publicly. Like it was nothing. We were pretty much business partners. And it was like everything was okay. And we were this power couple on stage, but nobody really knew what we were dealing with or experiencing with at home.
Yeah.
And he didn't know, nobody knew that he was trying to rise me up off the ground several times because I didn't even want to be touched. I did not want any type of physical contact.
Yeah.
And
I know
it's insane.
But it's real.
It's so real.
Yeah.
And I today we are not in a relationship. We were best friends. We talk all the time. We're still building business together. And, I'm so grateful for somebody like him, just I'm sure as you are with your husband, that somebody like him stood by me no matter what. No matter, I was the biggest bitch. I'm not going to swear, but I was so rude. I was so mean. We broke up several times over the years and got back together, and I tried to make it work. And, he has been one of the people that has been there for me through thick and thin, no matter what. And he still is here for me today. He wants me to be
pretty awesome.
Courageous woman that I've become.
Yeah.
And you know what? if I didn't have the beauty squad, if I didn't start this community, I don't think I would be where I'm at today, you know, like rather
Oh,
than,
I think you would have found something else. Like you said, you're unstoppable. I think the
yeah, but
tools
the
that
thing
you
about
got
it
from,
is unless you have passion, unless it fulfills you internally, you
Yeah.
just, you start something and then you quit. You start something and
Yeah.
then you quit. And
Right.
people are like, oh, she's on to this next thing. Oh, she's on to this next thing. And you know, even still, like with my party boats, I have so much fun this summer, but I know that that isn't fulfilling. That's just getting my mind off of everything else that I have to deal with. And it's fun, but at the end of the day, it's not going to fulfill me in life.
Right. Yeah. And there's
You
a big
know, it was
difference
awesome.
there.
And then when
Yeah.
they changed the new COVID rules, I was like, okay, now what? Why did I take my eye off the prize? Building this
Yeah.
amazing community where we are loved, we're supported.
Yeah.
You know, we're all working together to go and party all summer. Like, duh, what's that gonna do other than give you, you know,
Right.
more
It
more
kind of falls.
health, right?
Yeah, it kind of falls in line with my post I did today. It's just because you
Yeah.
like to sing doesn't mean you have to be a singer. So just because
Exactly.
you like to party doesn't mean that that has to be your business.
Exactly. So now I figured out a way where I don't even have to be on the boat. I can still hook up all of their events and I can focus on the community again.
Right.
And you know, since I've gotten back to me and I've regained my power, I think we've connected for a reason. I think that you know, our energies are aligned and we have a powerful story to share. And I'm just so grateful to have you spending time with me today. You know, like
thank you.
The if I didn't have this community that I had started, I didn't even know what was going to happen. I was talking to my nail girl when I went to go see her a couple weeks ago, and she's like, how many people do you have in your group now? I'm like, I think close to 1,500. And she's like, oh my God, I remember when you're supposed to get first trying to get your first 100. And, you know, this all happened organically within the year. And, you know, the biggest thing, especially with what's going on in the world right now, is a lot of people are losing their jobs, and a lot of people, you know, don't know how they're going to support their families. And a lot of people don't want to go get the vaccine. So we need to have something, a community, a positive community like this, where we can work together, we can support each other, we can refer each other customers, we can, you know, just share and just be real and just be honest and try to like lift everybody up together.
Right. I think, as I've seen often, you know, the quote about when you are feeling down, then help someone else out. And so it's a very common thing for those that have been, you know, deeply hurt to help others, that want to help others. And so something that I've often said, because the group that I've been part of has been trying to help us all stand on the shoulders of our story, to be able to share it like this and to serve and support others. And I've often said that that was never my intention. I was so focused on just trying to heal myself, to make myself good. I wasn't at that point yet to try to help others. Not saying I didn't want to, but that wasn't my main focus. But that shifted as I have healed more, as I have grown more. I feel much more confident or comfortable, I think is the word, not confident, comfortable in supporting other women more so. And so as I think you well know, I mean, my group is just very young. And so I'm still,
make sure I'm gonna share, I'm gonna make sure to post the recording in the group, and then please post your link for your group and everything as well, because I'm sure there will be some women that would love to join and participate.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah. And so, yeah, same thing. I mean, the whole premise is to provide a safe space, just like you do, a safe and sacred space for others to just be. And you know, not everybody shares as much as we would like that, but again, when they're ready, you know, we do that. And there's different aspects of whatever our trauma is that speaks to us, that we or triggers us, whatever, and then others that, you know, is no big deal, so it doesn't matter. And so you know, in terms of mentioning it, my group is called Footsteps. And how I came up with that is that, you know, I'm not the expert, but I have experience, I have age, I have some insight, but more along the lines of sharing some of the steps of my journey and supporting women in that way. And
I love it.
And so the stuff that I post is, you know, not necessarily just my footsteps,
but my beliefs, my understanding, even though they're borrowed, but what I post to go with that is my beliefs that go with that, and which of course have changed, dramatically over the years too. I mean, I definitely obviously went through the victim mentality
Yeah.
as well, woe is
And it's
me.
hard to get out of. It really
Yeah.
is.
And we all do. I think that's just part of the process and the journey. The difference is do we stay stuck there or not? And and many people do. And again, getting back to statistics too, like the statistics really haven't changed in terms of what they post. They say 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men are sexually abused before the age of 18. Well, those are the numbers that are reported. Well, I was never reported, and I don't know about you, but
Nope. Well,
there's a lot more out
I had
there
a
than
police
just
file,
what
but
is
that's what it
reported.
is.
Yeah, there's
So.
a lot more out there than what are reported. I could be in a room of 10, and I bet you 9 of us have been abused in one way or another.
Yeah.
So it's far too common. And the thing that I'm starting to see it happening more that I think needs to be addressed is not so much, why did the woman get raped, but it's like, what about the man's part, and there are men out there that are addressing healthy, helping men deal with their issues and their anger to be healthy and take responsibility for their lives and what they do with others as well. I mean, we all have to be responsible for ourselves, male or female,
I
and
agree.
the effect that we have on others, for sure. So
Yeah. Today has been it's given me strength having this conversation and speaking up with you, Frankie, and I really appreciate everything. It hasn't been an easy battle. I've been back almost this is my 3rd year back. And this community's really breathed life into me. I took everything that I had that was bottled up inside, and I'm just like letting it out. And it feels really good. It feels good to get a weight off your shoulders, but not only that, but breathing life into something other than yourself as well. It's kept my mind off of everything that I'm dealing with, but at the same time, it's healing me in the process.
Yeah, because as you're working to serve others, you're working on yourself at the same time. Yeah.
And I get messages once in a while. Thank you for being an inspiration. What you said today or what you posted today got me out of bed. The video that I shared in your group today.
Yep.
It's called
I
Never
love
Give
it.
Up. I listen. It's called When It Hurts. I listen to that every single morning.
Good.
And I found that video about 3 years ago. And I've been listening to it every morning ever since. And I sent it to a few people. There was somebody that I know was contemplating suicide. And they were like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to turn. I'm getting into a really dark place. I've started doing drugs again. And I said, listen, I've been there. I resorted to drugs. I've resorted to all the things that we do to avoid what we're dealing with. We'll just say that.
To not deal with the pain. To numb the pain.
It can come in a number of different forms. But the thing, the point about it is how do you react, and what decisions do you make going forward that are either going to make you or they're going to break you. And
how do you respond?
Yes, there's a lesson in everything that happens to you in your life, but what you do with that lesson makes you who you are.
Right. Yeah, I agree, definitely. And that's the difference in terms of the growth and the healing that we've done, is that we have that perspective now, but we didn't at one time, for sure. And it's witnessing and paying attention, and as you said, what is this telling me about myself?
Yeah. And you battle with a lot of the emotions internally, but it's always nice to be able to have somebody like you to speak and I know now that we have a friendship that if I'm feeling down, I could pick up the phone and call you.
Absolutely.
And we need that support. It doesn't have to be anything to do with abuse. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling like you're not good enough, call me. I will give you guys my phone number. Call me anytime you need to talk. And I'm sure Frankie is feeling the same way. Like this group that she's created, even just me being a part of it for the past couple days, I feel a sense of home. a sense
Good.
of family,
Thank you.
a
I'm
sense
glad
of
you do.
connection.
Yeah.
And that's what we need in this world right now.
Oh, yeah, more so than ever. Because I know myself, I didn't have connection. for the
No,
longest time.
I
So
honestly,
I know.
I
Yeah.
still don't. I'm working on the connection part, but the thing about it is it's hard for me to accept love. And
Yes. Yep.
It's
And that comes from the love you feel within for yourself as well, though.
yes,
So that's
it
the part of
definitely
your
does.
healing process. Yeah.
It does. And I'm actually starting to love myself again like I've never loved before. And part of your story inspired me to love myself again. So I wanted to thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's crazy, like being a woman at this age in the dating world. Most men idolize my body and don't give a shit about my mind. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but I feel that the right person will come along, and when they do, they'll accept me for a whole, and the thing about it is when I'm ready, the person will appear.
Right. As long as you are really clear on what you desire and your boundaries, that will make a world of a difference in terms of eliminating the frogs really quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Trust me, there's a lot of toads in the world. Hopefully one of them will turn into a prince, but until then, I'm just going to keep focusing on, internal healing, and focusing on me, and focusing on my mindset, and focusing on this powerful community that we're creating, which is about to launch. I'm so excited, but it's just been such an enlightening conversation today, Frankie. I really, really love you from the bottom of my heart. Like,
thank you.
It's crazy. Like when I read your story, I was like, I feel like I'm like connected to you in some type of a way. And now I know more so that we didn't connect by accident. And I wanted to thank Mark Laurie, if you're watching this, because we would have never really connected if we both didn't step out of our comfort zone. When I did my interview podcast with him, and that's how we connected. And he may not know this, but he's changing a lot of women's lives through his work.
I think he knows, and I think that's why he's still doing it. I know. I've expressed it to him many times.
I might have to, when the weather gets better in springtime, I'm going to take a trip up there and come see you and do Her Body Speaks with him as well.
Let me know. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I'm so thankful to have you too.
Yeah. And, if anybody, I don't think, because there's some men in the group, it's up to you. You like to post your pictures. But I think some of the women would like to see them. So if you are watching this, I don't know if you're comfortable with that, but if you're not comfortable, if you are watching this, reach out to Frankie, and she wouldn't mind to share her images with the women in the group. We'll keep it.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I have shown them to one or two men, but they're men that I know.
Yeah. This isn't that kind of a group. So
no, it's primarily for and that's the difference. When you do this kind of stuff, is, at least for me anyway, and I think ultimately all of us, we do it for ourselves.
Correct.
Not my husband couldn't care less.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it and did it, my whole.
What did he say about that anyways? What was his initial reaction at first? Before we end the call, I have to know.
How much is this going to cost me?
But he was okay with you doing it and expressing yourself. Well, that's cool. That's a cool husband.
Well, he understands, as time has gone on and I've shared more and more of what I'm doing. I mean, he knows my story, but as I share what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, he understands more. And so he understands why I did that, why it was important to me.
That's amazing. Now, you've given me the courage. I'm actually really excited. I'm really excited about it. I was like so scared before I even sent Laura a message. I'm like, I may have a heart attack, but I'm gonna do this. Like, I need to do this in order for me to move forward and just get that confidence, that boost. And
that's right.
And because of your story, it's now possible for me as well. So I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to do this call or this interview with me. I guess it's just a conversation. Let's not call it an interview. Let's just call it a conversation.
I agree.
And, you know, we will have the recording available for anybody that has missed it. I will make sure to post it in the group, and you can also share it in your community as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
And anybody that would like to have a more conversation with either myself or Frankie, or would like to join her group, you know,
Oh,
you don't
please.
have to post anything publicly. Please just reach out to us privately if you know, if you're experiencing anything where you feel that you could use our support. We are all here. We're both here for you.
Yeah, I'm here for sure. As you said, you're not alone. And if it's still a secret, it's gonna kill you.
Yes.
It killed my sister.
Yeah.
It'll kill you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We're exactly 1 hour. I think that's the perfect way to end
Oh.
this call. And I just wanted to give you a big virtual hug and tell you that I love you. And thank you so much for today. I just feel like coming out of this call, I feel like $1 million. Like, I feel like I could conquer anything now.
Oh, thank you so much. I love you, Calli. You
Love
take
you
care.
too.
We'll
Have a
stay
good day.
connected.
Bye.
Bye.